successful life we're living's got us feeling like the Hatfields and McCoys.
News Talk WLOB at Fox 23. How is it that you do? 7:23. It's Friday. Ray Richardson. We are joined by a very elite kind of fellow.
We are. We thought he was in the bunker, but he's out.
Oh, he's out. Are you kidding me? Mr. Mastermind, the architect in Maine.
Behind the failure.
Well, we got to talk about that. It is Roy Lenardson, everybody. Hello, Roy.
Good morning, guys.
Well, let's talk about that for just a second because you help with so many Senate races and other races. I mean, man, you're knee deep in initiatives.
I'd like to take
races.
full credit for Senator Collins' race. Can I do that?
Oh, good.
If Steve Abbott's not listening, I'll take credit.
Good for you. That's great. But you were as much on defense, right, with some of these races as you were, trying to.
We kind of got a sense of it early in the night, actually, when you started seeing the York County. Just some of the York County numbers, you saw some folks, Bonnie Gould, lose her race down, which I think she's a terrific legislator.
She lost like by 10 points, I think.
Yeah. And, you could just sort of see some of the wave. We had a lot of protecting to do. Our top priorities were trying to get Mary Andrews in York and Kittery. That just was a disaster. It didn't work. Then the other three were to protect our open seats. We had 3 open seats, which was down in Camden with Chris Rector versus Dave Merrimont, a legislator. Then we had Dave Trahan in Lincoln County versus another legislator from Wiscasset.
What did Trahan do?
They won.
Oh,
they
yeah?
won. Yeah, we actually protected our open seats.
Yeah.
Wait, so we had sort of 3 goals. Just wanted to pick up the Mary Andrews seat. We failed.
Is Trahan in a recount?
No, not even close.
Because Bangor Daily News,
you
probably
can't go
did
by
a
that.
terrible job.
Well, it's not really their job. It'd be nice if we could just have
except
reporting.
that they report it.
Right.
And so if they're going to take the responsibility, at least do it well.
What would be wrong with a precinct having a website? A precinct website. Here we go. Or a city website that says here's what's official.
Well,
but
so those 3 open seats, victorious. We protected those. Then I think the thing we had to protect Roger Sherman, who was up against Jackie Landine up in Aroostook County, a very good candidate. Roger, we spent money protecting him. He pulled it out. And then
Jerry Davis' seat in Falmouth, that was very close. What was that, 51-49?
Yeah, which is a lot closer than it should be.
So as you look at it from a bird's eye view, in next year, as you look back on this year, or in 2 years, look back on this year, would you do anything differently, number one? Or number two, if you were to capsulate kind of the efforts and the wins and the losses, how would you feel about Republicans in the state right now?
Well, look, I mean,
the representation of.
Yeah, I mean, the big picture is that we have a serious lack of strong sort of top state base. I'm not talking about Senators Collins and Snow, but there really isn't a group of 1 or 2 people that people say, this is our guy, this is our gal, this is who we look towards to lead the Republican banner in Maine. So that's one problem that Republicans, I think, in the state have.
And was another problem, quite literally, the mood of the nation. Can that and does that affect Maine?
Yeah,
as well as
you can't. That happened everywhere. I mean, I think there's a couple states where Republicans in
Tennessee
the South
did well.
picked up a few seats, which I think the
Oklahoma
South is
kept right. Sure.
holding.
Tennessee actually gained Republicans in the legislature.
Oh,
right.
see, how
and
about
actually,
that? Statewide.
And a friend of mine was working on that, and they felt good that they had good chances to do that.
Yeah, it's difficult because the Democrats do a couple things extremely well, and they have for years. Number one, they have a good farm team. They start grooming people at the town council level to go to the state house and then eventually go to other positions. In fact, I know, for example, one of the guys in my town, Brendan Riley, they've looked at him for a long time. It's a guy who might one day run for governor. So they're talking with him, grooming him, looking at that. We don't do that well.
Yeah, well, I just wonder, though, too, again, from the bird's eye view, if one can do anything differently in the atmosphere that is so blue in Maine. We continually point out now the last few days, we're so glad question 1 was defeated, right? No more tax on beer, wine, and soda. But the very next stroke of the pen sent the same people back who were responsible for enacting or trying to this very tax.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think your listeners know better than I and probably most people that there's a brand issue here. Is if you don't own national security, if you don't own economics, if you don't sort of own this list as a party, that you're not the party of lower taxes, you don't have a brand per se for what you'll do, then you throw your chances to the wind.
That's
in a lot of these
interesting. So
races.
you could draw a lot of parallels to the national race, and let's do that. How do you feel now? We see all the backbiting coming out of the McCain campaign. You know a lot of these people, Roy.
I turn that off. I just find that disgusting.
Is it disgusting because it may not be true? Is it disgusting because it's coming out and they're showing themselves for being very unprofessional?
I wouldn't believe a word of it. I think when people start trying to look for simple answers, blaming certain people, it's convenient and it makes you feel better about
it
yourself.
happens in every losing campaign. Isn't it
Right.
true in campaigns the winning campaign was brilliant? The losing campaign has always the backbiting, but this seems to be a lot more severe.
Yeah, well, there's just in Maine, there's just some fundamental system issues. You know, I don't know how many field offices the Obama folks had, 10, 11, 12, 13 field offices. I mean, they did have a good sort of general Obama plan where they got lots of new voters to the polls, and I'm not sure. I think a lot of them would ordinarily check D unless you have a tremendous amount of money. I mean, the thing you can't forget about Senator Collins is she had $8 million to get her point across. That's a lot of money.
Well, let
and
me
the
ask
same
you-
with the Fed up with taxes. They spent extraordinary amount
Yeah,
of money.
they spent $3 million.
Sure.
I think-
I never asked you this question, and I want to ask both of you. If she had $50 in the bank, would she have won?
No.
Really?
Oh, I think if you talk to the Collins people, I think they would agree that they would have. Well, I know this for a fact that when the third-party groups started coming out in full force for Congressman Allen, that they saw dips in their tracking poll immediately.
Who saw it?
Collins folks really saw it start to tighten
So
up.
you do, as popular
gosh,
as
yeah.
she is, you still have to wage.
But
Yeah.
she's got to get her message out. I mean,
Yeah.
Susan ran a good campaign.
Why can't the message is, I'm Susan Collins, I'm going to win, and so do I, so we'll see you on the 4th.
Well, if you
Well,
look
if it
what
was
she
that
did
easy.
tactically, I mean, she didn't exactly talk about big national issues. She hit energy independence issue a little bit for a while, but much of what Senator Collins did was, these are the things I did for you. I did this, and it could be,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I mean,
Job training, we talked
job
about all the
training,
money she got.
paramedics.
And let's not forget,
Sure.
a very popular
Defibrillators.
and someone you look at, we all look back, with a lot of respect for is Margaret Chase Smith. She lost in a re-election bid at the United States Senate level,
And she didn't spend any money, and
Yeah.
her opponent spent lots of money.
And
Is that
so
right?
it can
Is that
happen.
right?
Oh, sure.
Isn't that wild? Oh, well,
But
all
they
right.
ran a great camp. The Collins people, I mean, I get to see them up close and personal.
Yeah,
They just,
Sure.
22%. I mean, as you know, I predicted 16%,
Yeah.
and people said I was crazy. 22% is incredible.
That's it. You know what? The whole thing it's rather large. 5 seconds. Tom
Yeah.
Allen will he? They're speculating get an appointment to the Obama administration. Your thoughts, quick?
you know, I guess it's entirely possible. I'm not
It
sure.
is possible. Yeah. 7:30. LOB and Fox 23.